It's Saturday, September 27th, 1958. 16-year-old William Leslie Arnold wants to go out to a drive-in and take his girl with him. Maybe he'll get to first base, or maybe he'll at least get the bunt. But your mom won't let you use the car so you can take your girl out. Mom is so not cool. What would you do if you were William and you wanted to take your girl out and your mom says, no, you're not taking the family car? Well, you do what any well-adjusted teenager back in the 50s would do. You kill your friggin' parents. That'll teach them. Lamont at Large today. We're in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to tell you that exact story of what happened and how this man ended up going to prison for double murder, escaping, and never being found ever again until a weird encounter with a DNA company. He ended up living his best life down under. Kind of feel like I've already told you guys the story, but we're going to proceed. So like I said, Saturday, September 27, 1958, 16-year-old William Leslie Arnold Jr., everyone calls him Leslie for short, he wants to take his girlfriend Christine out on a date, and he really needs the family car. Now, the family had two cars. They had a 54 Mercury and a 57 Mercury. But for some unknown reason, his mom, Opal, would not let him use the car. Now, he really wanted to take his girl to the drive-in. Maybe he'll get to first base, or maybe he'll bunt, who knows. And they want to go see the movie The Undead, starring Pamela Duncan, Allison Hayes, and Richard Garland. You see, the movie is about a psychic who hires a prostitute to put her in a trance so she could visit her former past life. So she's transported back in time, only to find out that she's in the Middle Ages, she's in jail, and she's being charged as a witch, and she's set to be executed. That's a pretty good plot line. I think I might go look for that movie and watch it on Netflix tonight. But anyway, so he really wants to see this movie, but mom is being a doofus. Now, there's three things that Leslie really likes in life back in 1958. He likes his girlfriend, Christina, Chris for short. He likes playing the saxophone. He's actually pretty good. And if he sticks at it, maybe he'll go to school for music and he'll be able to make a living as a musician. Very few lucky individuals in the world actually get to do that for a living. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to do what you're passionate about and able to make a living on top of that. And he really likes Elvis Presley. He even styles his hair kind of like him. So Leslie was really into his girl. And I wasn't around in 1958, but I was around in 1988. And I do remember then, that I'm sure they did back in those days, that, usually families only had one phone. If you had two phones, to me, you were rich. You were doing phenomenal. So he would always talk to his girl. He had that long telephone extension cord? And didn't always quite go to where you wanted it to, however. So it didn't quite reach his room. So he would always be sitting on the stairs right outside of his room talking to his girlfriend. And his parents, they had two cars. They had a 1957 Mercury and they had a 1954 Mercury. And sometimes Chris would ask his parents if he could borrow the car. But on this night, for some unknown reason, his mother, Opal, she said, no, you're not getting the car. And he was really angry. And he really wanted to, use the car. So he wanted to go out with his girlfriend. And his mother said, no, you're not going out. Who knows what happened? Did he get punished? I have no idea. But Leslie was going to use that car over his mother's dead body. Now, Leslie is forming a plan in his 16-year-old raging hormone-addled brain. He's saying, okay, maybe I can steal the keys from her and just leave. Yeah, I'll get in trouble, but who cares? Maybe dad will kick my A, whatever. And at the time, his dad, I think he was like some kind of a business owner, maybe involving produce. Don't quote me. I don't know. But he had his own business. And he's just thinking, man, I know what to do. I know what the perfect situation is for me to be able to use the family vehicle. I'm going to kill my mother. Yeah, I'm just going to kill her. Now, he knew that his parents had a .22 caliber rifle upstairs and that he sometimes used it to go hunting rabbits or just shooting things, whatever it is that he wanted to do. So he goes to his parents' room as his mother's downstairs in the kitchen, and he grabs the rifle and he makes sure that it's loaded. And he's going downstairs and he has his gun in his hand. He's going downstairs. His plan is to kill his mother. And is he thinking, he's like, I'm not going to go through with this, am I? Yeah. What if I get in trouble? Who cares? I want to go see the movie. I want to go see The Undead. So he goes into the kitchen and his mother sees him with the rifle. Now, who knows what the hell she's thinking? Maybe he's going to go, blow off some steam outside or whatever. But instead of blowing off steam, he's going to blow off mom. So she tells him something about, oh, what are you going to do with that? And he points the rifle right at her and fires. Pow, pow, 6 times. And she falls to the ground. Probably a couple more times for good measure. And just as he finished shooting her, his dad is coming home with some groceries. His dad walks into the house. I mean, his dad might have even heard the shots. Who knows? And he says, he sees his wife on the floor, blood everywhere, and he runs and tries to grab the gun. And Leslie points the gun at him and shoots him 5 or 6 times as well. Pow, pow, all that. This boy just killed his own parents because they wouldn't let him borrow the car to go to a drive-in. Okay, so now your parents are dead. So now what do you do? So his little brother, he was 12 years old. Jimmy was his name at the time. He was doing some kind of rodeo cowboy camp or whatever. So he's about to come home. So Leslie goes outside and now he's waiting for his little brother because he can't go in the house because he's going to see that. So Jimmy starts coming down the street and Leslie stops him right in front of the family home and says, hey, there's been an emergency. Like mom and dad had to leave. They had to go out of town. So, something happened like to grandpa or something. And he's like, I got to take you to our family so they can watch you. So he takes Jimmy, drops him off at a family member's house, comes back to the home and grabs the car and takes his girlfriend to the drive-in. So your parents are dead, but who cares? At least you get to watch the movie now. So he jumps into the car. Probably takes the 57. Since you killed your parents, you might as well live it up. He jumps into the newer car, picks up Chris, and they go see The Undead. Now, what they did during the drive-in remains to be unseen. I have no idea. Maybe they had a good time. So he drops his girlfriend off at her home, and then he comes back, and they're still lying there. Well, yeah, because he killed them. So he's like, okay, I'm 16 years old. I just murdered my parents. Maybe it was in bad judgment. Maybe it was in bad taste. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. So he takes his parents' bodies and he kind of like just moves them into the basement. The basement isn't like really a basement. I mean, it is, but there's, just drags him down like a few steps. And he leaves them there and then he goes to sleep. So he wakes up in the morning and goes into the basement. They're still there because they're dead. So he grabs his dad's belt, loops it around his dad's legs and starts dragging his parents out to the front of the, not the front of the house, but the front of the kitchen. He goes out in the backyard, he gets a shovel and he starts digging. He digs like a hole, maybe about 2 feet deep, 6 feet wide, whatever. So when it gets dark, everyone's inside their home. So he takes that belt, loops it around his dad's legs, and drags dad out to that hole he dug just for good old dad, and puts him right in there. And then he goes after mom. And he really had a thing for his mom. I guess they didn't have a very good relationship. A lot of weirdos, they have something with their mom. So this guy grabs his mom, takes the belt, repeats, puts him in the ground, buries him. Now he's got to figure out, okay, these people aren't coming back because I killed them. So what do I do now? So the first order of business is to go to dad's business and tell the employees there's going to be a little bit of a vacation that his dad's going on. So he goes to the dad's business and tells the employees, hey, listen, my dad's not going to be around for a while, a family emergency. So, and you guys are just going to have to run things for a while. He'll be back soon. And then he tells his neighbors, he's like, yeah, my parents, they went out on vacation. So if you don't see them for a while, don't worry about it. So he goes to school and acts like nothing's happened. And finally his grandparents, they're like asking, well, where's your parents? Where's William and Opal? And he's like, yeah, they something, I don't know. They went on a vacation. Yeah, vacation, that's it. Well, you can't leave a 16-year-old boy and his 12-year-old brother at home alone. So the grandparents come over there to stay in the house with them. Now, this charade is going on for over a week now, and they don't know where their son and daughter-in-law is. And the grandparents, they're like talking to each other, and they're saying like, something's not right, something is weird. They've been gone a week and a half, we don't know where they're at. I think we should call the police. So it's almost 2 weeks now. They've been gone for 2 weeks. They're not coming back, obviously. And finally, one of the grandparents calls Omaha PD, and they're saying like, yeah, our grandson says that my son went on some vacation to Arizona or something like that, and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I'm getting kind of worried, and things are getting kind of weird, and I think you guys need to come over here, and I don't know what to do. So the police, they come to this home right on the corner, right there. That's where the Arnolds used to live. And they pick up Leslie and they take up to the station. And they're like, all right, listen, kid, your parents been gone for 2 weeks. Where are they at? What happened? This is weird. Finally, Leslie confesses. He's like, all right, my mom wouldn't let me go to the drive-in, so I killed her. Ah, okay. So you killed your mom, and then where's your dad? I was like, well, I killed him too. Oh, okay. So he says, well, if you killed them, where are their bodies? So they get in the squad car, and they come back to this house right here. House pretty much looks the same, and except for they updated the windows. And they come to this backyard right here. And he said, well, after I killed them when I went to the movies and I came back, I drugged their bodies. I'm guessing he wouldn't have drugged their bodies out. So he probably drugged them from that door, possibly right there. So he would have drugged their bodies, probably waited until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Drug them. And according to a picture that a newspaper reporter took, he buried them right about where that yellow thing is, where it's holding the cables down to the ground. He buried them somewhere around there. So when that newspaper reporter took the picture, he would have been standing, I'm guessing, right here. And then there was a fence at the time. They're probably putting in a new fence. So all these guys standing around just looking. This was a big story in Omaha, and they're all standing right over there. And they start digging, and they didn't have to go very far, because within about I don't know, less than 5 shovels of dirt. William's hand is sticking up out of the ground. So they finally found William and Opal, and immediately Leslie is arrested and charged with double murder. And this is where one 17-year-old William Leslie Hardin was brought in 1959 to serve his life sentence at hard labor. This is the Nebraska State Penitentiary. This is the main prison here in Nebraska. Has some notable inmates. This was where Charles Starkweather was executed. John Jobert, child killer, was executed here. And this is the same prison where lunatic freak Nico Jenkins is currently residing on death row here at the Nebraska State Penitentiary. And for the next 8 years, this is where Leslie, this was where his home was. Now, the 8 years that he was here, he was a model inmate. As I said earlier in the video, he was a saxophone player, so he played in the prison band. As a matter of fact, we see some prisoners over there. Zoom ain't too hot on this camera, but you can kind of see the guys over there just walking around having a good time. Some of you guys out there might want to never come here if you don't have to. Anyways, so this was where he resided, and he would make some friends as he was being held at this prison. One of those friends that he made was another inmate, of course, by the name of James Hardin, 32 years of age. And James and Leslie, they start talking about, like, you know, what a lot of those guys over there talk about. You know, those guys right there, you know what they're talking about? Probably nothing interesting. But a lot of them would talk about, boy, I'd love to escape out of here. I'd love to escape. And that's exactly what they did. So apparently, and I don't know how they did this, because I'm sure the prison is not really wanting to release this information. But basically, one of those guys, they put out an ad in the newspaper asking somebody, I guess, if they could help them escape. I mean, I don't know the exact extent of what the ad said, but that's basically what happened. So another person, a parolee that paroled from this prison, that probably knows the layout very well, they just came over here and started throwing hacksaws and masks over the fence. And on July the 14th, 1967, James and Leslie used a couple of shirts, threw it over the barbed wire, and they put the masks in their bed, and they jumped over the fence and they escaped out into the July evening weather. It was probably humid and very warm, kind of like it is now. They ended up somehow, someone gave them money, and they both got on a bus and headed to Omaha. So they got off the bus, and by this time now, this whole prison's on lockdown, and they're looking for these inmates. But by that time, they were long gone. And eventually, the two, they parted ways. One guy went to Chicago, the other guy, well, who the hell knows where he went. And James Hardin eventually would be caught about a year later. But Leslie, well, he was never caught. And his whereabouts would go unknown for the next 55 some odd years until a advancement in DNA technology would solve that case. Now what do you do with yourself? You're an escaped prisoner. You're in Chicago. you have very little money, if any at all, and a lot of people are looking for you. What do? Well, you do what Leslie did. First of all, you got to change your name. William Leslie Arnold is no longer good because William Leslie Arnold is an escaped double murderer. But John Vincent Damon, he has a totally clean record. He's never done anything in his life. He's an upstanding citizen. So he changes his name to that. So now he's John Damon. He immediately gets a job at a restaurant. Now, while working at this restaurant, that is when he meets his future first ex-wife, who has 4 kids from a previous marriage. So they get married, and for the next few years, they move to different cities. He gets a job in sales, and he's becoming quite successful in his new career, whatever the hell it was. So the family had moved to Cincinnati. They had moved to Florida. And then, I don't know, he gets an itch. This guy, maybe he's tired of taking care of another woman's kids. I have no idea. So he ends up divorcing this woman, and he starts making his way out to California. So in California, he lives there for a while, and the story gets a little bit murky. I'm not sure what he did between California and 1992, but he eventually immigrates to New Zealand. So John Vincent Damon is now a New Zealand citizen. So he lives in New Zealand for about 5 years. He meets a woman there, and they have family. Start a family. They have at least 2 kids. In 1997, they leave New Zealand and settle down in Australia. So now this guy's an Australian citizen, raising his kids. He has at least a boy and a girl with his wife in Australia. And John Damon is a fantastic father. Kids love him, wife loves him, neighbors, community, so forth and so on. Everything is fantastic and everything is great. So we're going to fast forward a little bit to around 2019, 2020. Now at this time, there's a kid, he's like 19 years old, and he's from New Zealand. He lives in Australia, and his father, John Damon, he died quite a number of years ago when he was a little kid. And every time this kid would ask his dad, John, about his life in America, it was always vague. He never really answered any questions. He just said, I was an orphan, I'm from Chicago. That's basically what the story was. I'm an orphan and I'm from Chicago. So this kid never really knew his father's past, and he always wondered about his American family. How come I can't go to America and visit my family, so forth and so on. So about 10 years after he died, this kid starts looking up, one of those family genealogy websites. While he's doing that, back in the United States, authorities, they don't know what the hell happened to William Leslie Arnold. He just disappeared. And all throughout the years, the U.S. Marshals, they would take the case, investigate claims. Maybe he's here, maybe he's there. He literally dropped off the face of the earth. So when agents with whatever law enforcement agency, U.S. Marshals, FBI, whatever, when they retire, somebody comes aboard and then they start looking into old case files. So you get new blood in there, and they want to start wondering what the hell happened to William Leslie Arnold, the 16-year-old boy who brutally murdered his parents. So one of the new agents, he contacts Jimmy Arnold, remember his 12-year-old little brother. So at this time now, I think Jimmy's living down south somewhere, possibly Tennessee, don't quote me. So he contacts Jimmy Arnold, and he's like, hey, listen, would you mind submitting your DNA? I'm going to put it in a database. There's been advances in DNA technology and, familial DNA. It's like a tree branch growing, and maybe we'll get a hit. So he says, okay, sure. So he submits his DNA. While he's doing that 19-year-old kid in Australia that never really knew his dad but was curious about his American family, well, he submits his DNA too. And eventually in 2020 or 2021, their DNAs would cross paths. Now, a hit takes place about somebody in Australia. They get a hold of this person. They start talking via video conference. And when they start looking through things, they see the name John Vincent Damon. Now, okay, so they're looking, and they're matching up the pictures, and come to find out they share the same DNA. So they find the man that they have been looking for, I don't know, what is it, almost 50 years. This guy eluded capture. He died in 2010 when he was 67 years of age. And the detectives, they had to talk to this kid in Australia who remains nameless. They didn't want to identify him. And they had to tell him, hey, man, your dad is an orphan. He's right about that. He's an orphan. And the reason why he's an orphan is because he killed his parents. I mean, that's got to be a gut punch. A man that you loved, that took care of you, that nurtured you. Come to find out that, I guess you could say he basically orphaned himself. And this right here is the final resting place of the Arnolds. The loving parents that he brutally murdered. What is it now? Over 60 years ago? Crazy story, huh? Because they didn't want to let you borrow the car to go to a drive-in and you kill him. And for the most part, John Damon lived a exemplary life. He never got arrested. Everybody completely shocked. Funny thing is that John would tell his son that when he was a kid growing up in Chicago that he played the saxophone. And his kid actually picked up the instrument to play, but he said never one time did his father ever try to play the saxophone. One of the weirder stories I've definitely done on this channel. So John is buried somewhere out in Australia, and I plan on doing a video visiting his grave. So let's go to Australia, huh? Well, not in this video. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do want to go. There's some stories in Australia that I want to do. Okay, guys, rest in peace to the Arnolds. And yeah, brutal crime done by a brutal person. I don't care how young he was, a psychopath. I'm surprised he didn't kill anybody afterwards. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you later. Peace out.